SimTheWorld here. We are back in our Car Mechanic Simulator 2018 playthrough series. So today we are picking up our next story order. It actually doesn't look too bad. The paint looks good. It's missing a bumper. And the tires definitely look like they've seen better days. Let's take a look at what the status is. So the customer says, "My students are complaining that the clutch is very heavy. Another issue is that we had a little incident recently that ended in a close encounter with a curb at a fairly high rate of speed. After the incident, I've noticed something dripping under the car. I'd like you to go over the car and fix whatever you can so my young drivers are not afraid to get behind the wheel of the car." So he must be an instructor. Definitely would make sense. The tires, they look atrocious. If I dive into the engine here, it does look like there's quite a bit that needs repaired. The brake system for sure. The coils are completely rusted out. Let's take a look at the parts list, which is absolutely extensive. Oh my god. Can we get any testing done? I'd imagine all four tires are going to will need to be replaced. Rims probably too, if I had to guess. Yeah, I think that's all four. Let's just run through all the tests and see what works and what doesn't, and see how much of this list we can fill up. So the starter is bad, the battery needs to be charged. Probably means we won't be able to take it out and test it on the track. But at least the parts in the engine are good. We won't have to we won't have to pull the whole engine out this time. Which we're not often that lucky. Yeah, the spark plugs are bad too. Just one is good. Of course, we'll replace everything since we're in here. We'll just leave one spark plug. I wonder if it'll allow us to take it to the test path. Yeah, you can't start the engine, so it won't go. I'm going to take this over to the lifter, of course. Well, before we do that, let's put the new bumper on. I picked these up earlier. And the fender, so that at least takes care of part of the job. We got the parts replaced. Now all we have to do is find all these parts in the car. Oh. So up on the lifter this will go. I'm going to try to do this a little bit differently. Since I know that the tires are bad, let's take the tire off. I'm going to run through, pull out anything that looks bad on the suspension, and see if we can't fix that first. Because the engine has its own issues. Yeah, that brake pad was bad. Let's go through and examine. Okay, so the bearing's good, the hub's good. If I check out different things on one side, that usually means that the rest should be fine. The only thing I won't be able to test is the bushings. This one does look bad. Yep. So I'll pull the bushings anyhow just to confirm. And we're going to go around the car and take a look. The steering rack looks bad. I wonder if the bushings in this are bad. We may just have to pull off that bottom piece, get a lower suspension arm, and we'll take a look. Alright, so the bushings in that were fine, so I'm going to put those back as they were. The other bushings are bad. It does look like the spring is bad too, so let's pull that off. And we'll jump over to the other side and do the same thing. Alright, now that the tie rods are off, I can pull the steering rack. The sway bar will come with it. It does appear like we'll need to remove the gearbox, which I'll need to take the starter off first. Get that oil filter out of there. Let's go ahead and take off the tires off the rear end and see if there's anything weird going on here. Alright, so the brakes, the calipers all look good. All the pads need to be replaced. Yeah, that brake disc is bad. The wheel hub is bad. Let's check out the... Okay, so the bearing is good. Now the bushings here, this bushing doesn't look... Yeah, that looks fine. It is always just a just a challenge to find everything that's wrong with this. Yeah, these are bad, of course, just like in the front end. And the springs look like they're bad. But the cap's fine. I think we've got a good idea, at least, of the suspension items that we'll need to replace. I'll pull off the same parts here. I'll have to get new tires and rims. That's going to be the only annoying part, since it takes such a long time in this game to... Ooh, that knuckle looks bad, so that's new. I was just going to assume everything was the same on each side. But it looks like... And the sway bar link. So not everything is all that it seems. That bushing was fine too, but we'll replace all four just to make sure there's no issue with that. And of course, this knuckle will come out too. But to do that, we gotta pull off everything. Ah, that's so annoying. Guess it makes sense though. You can't just can't pull one part out and replace it. It all goes in a strict pattern. Alright. I think the last thing is just the small rubber bushing. Which that's fine. Now we can get the rear knuckle housing A. And in fact, before I do anything, let's go ahead and pick that up. And replace that. That way we can get everything else that was fine in the car. Because this small bushing was fine. Yeah, this was fine. I just don't want to have to buy parts we don't need. And try to keep this all consistent. And it'll be less of a hassle when I go to replace the bushings. I won't have to worry about putting new ones in these places. Make sure that we repair the other parts up to 100%. Because that's really the main issue that you run into when you're replacing these parts. Is that in the story orders, you have to repair everything to 100% if it is marked. So that's why in some cases when we replace a bushing, if it didn't think it needed to be replaced, then you don't have to replace it. Otherwise, you do have to replace it with a brand new part. So I think with that, we should be back to where we were. I'm going to run over to the tire changer just to take a look at these rims. See if any of these are salvageable. Which these three appear to be. I could probably repair those on the repair bench. But just to keep things simple, I'm going to buy new parts. I'll be back and once I run to the shop and get all the parts we need. I finished up getting all the parts. I did remember I want to drain the oil too. It looked like the oil pan was bad, so we'll need to replace that. And that is one of the things we need to do for the job. Let's go ahead and pull that oil pan off too while we're down here. Perfect. So it looks like everything in the engine is fine. Yep, everything's in good condition. So let us replace that part. I need to pick it up from the shop. Just needed to know which oil pan it was. There we go. We got a brand new one. That is installed. We can also replace the oil filter. And while I was buying parts, I also pulled off the starter. That way we can get the transmission off. And take a look under here. Yeah, that is all rough looking parts. Except for the clutch plate. Clutch plate looks good. But we can jump over to our gearbox shop. Like I said, the clutch plate was fine, but the pressure plate, the release bearing, and flywheel need replaced. As well as the gearbox itself, which actually, we don't do this very often. But let's see if I can repair it. Let's see, there's the gearbox. And it looks like that repaired. We'll double check here in a second. If you're playing through, this is probably an easy way to save some money, is by pulling all the parts off and then repairing them to 100%. If you can do that, that is, to get to 100%, there are a few perks you have to unlock along the way. But yeah, if you can make that happen, that saved us quite a bit of money instead of just buying a new transmission case. Ooh, the front drive shaft is bad too. I also, not everything needed to be replaced. The front spring and the cap did, but the column was fine. Though I just find it easier rather than pulling it apart. It's actually worth my time not to and just buy a new part. If you're playing realistically, that's where you may want to, pull it apart, pull the spring apart, save and salvage that column. Hopefully the battery is done charging. There we go. Let's slap that back in this car. So the suspension is done. Everything should be good down there. I did end up having to replace all the brake calipers. I had forgotten which one needed to be replaced, and there's only one on this vehicle. So that was kind of annoying, because I had everything repaired, everything was ready to go, but one caliper, I had the wrong one repaired. Which is what I was talking about earlier, where if you don't replace the right one and only replace one of the four, if it's not the right one, then it's not going to count. So, with that being said, the battery is replaced. The air filter needed to be replaced up top here. I didn't want to fumble about that too much. The radiator needs to go. Let's go ahead and jump over here. Take out the manifold. How's the fuel rail? Fuel rail looks fine. We'll put that back. The fuel filter needs to go for sure. Same with the AABS module and pump. We already knew that the spark plugs needed to go, and the coils, should I say. Pulling out the coils to get to the spark plugs. Now let's jump on the side here. Looks like, I'm hoping we can leave the intake manifold over there the same. Serpentine belts are no good. Those are usually pretty quick to come apart. Crankshaft needs to be replaced. I know the timing belt. Timing belt was one that they gave us. That too needs to be replaced. And in addition to the timing belt, the cam gear. I'm going to examine real quick and see if the cam shafts are fine, which they look good. So I think, let's see if we found everything. Yeah, I'm seeing a name on everything. So I'll go through here slow just in case you're playing along or having a difficulty finding everything. Just pause the video and take a look what you're missing. There are quite a few parts here. But let me pick up the cam gear, and I think we should be good to go. I tried to pick up most of the parts beforehand. Oh, you know what else I need? I didn't pick up the fuel filter. It was on the other side of the engine when I was picking up parts, so I didn't even notice it was bad. But then again, in most of these jobs, you do have to replace them. It seems pretty standard just to go through, change the oil, replace all the filters. That's something that, you know, even in real life seems to be a standard practice. Depending where you go, of course. Not everyone will replace all your filters like that automatically, but it is nice. They usually do refill your fluids, which in this game so far we don't have new fluids yet. It would be cool to see a system for that, but you'll have to check out our Car Mechanic Simulator 2021 video if you want to see some of my thoughts and some other people's thoughts that they've been listing off down in the comments too. It's been a cool discussion seeing what the community really wants to see in a future game title. We just need to put in these spark plugs and we should be good to go. Of course, you can see one of those was fine. I'm not risking it. Spark plug is $6. It's not worth my time to go back and repair this car. Even for $6. I think we need to put in the starter. This car won't be going anywhere. And we need to put in new oil. That should be enough. Let's take a look. Yep, I think we've completed everything. We do have the job bonus. So I think with that, yeah, we're good to go. Let's finish this order up. Ooh, front license plate. You know, that's not something they mention in the description. One of the issues I find with the car. So let's give them Alabama. Perfect. First one on the list. It's not a part of the list, but it is a part of the car. I can't leave without it. It's kind of strange. They should be supplying their own license plates, but get the car out. And that's another one wrapped up in our series. So if you enjoy this game, be sure to hit the like button and let me know. Also, let me know what other games we should be looking at in the future. We're beginning to run out of cars. I believe you go up until level 44. There's a story order for each level. So we're still about 10 levels off. I'm going to find out pretty soon here how close we are on the story orders if I have to start cranking out some more levels. But with that, thanks for watching as I simulate my life one game at a time. If you enjoy this video, please be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the future action. You can follow on Twitter for updates of future games being played, as well as follow on Twitch as I try to stream 3 days a week. Thanks, and I'll see you next time at SimTheWorld.